All right. So I'm finally doing this. I've been preparing to do this video for a pretty long time now, and the reason why I kept delaying it is because I just kept looking for the perfect, idea, or probably to get all the setup done and everything. So I have this plan to continue uploading some videos on YouTube, other than the first documentary that I put, and I think there's a lot of interest in learning by a lot of people around the world to learn more about Samaritanism and the history of the Samaritan community. And I also have a passion to share things that I just know about the community, and also just in the future about the world. And I think we can add, by we, I mean, I think we can even make a community here to talk about really interesting topics around the world, and also not only about religion, history, and traditions, but maybe even dive deeper into other subjects like science, philosophy, technology. I have a lot of interest to talk about these things, and I think this is a nice opportunity for me to do this small passion of mine. And as a first episode, I actually wanted to kind of record myself just searching the internet for the word Samaritan, and then see what is out there, and then talk about my opinion, what the community also believes, in contrast with what I see when I search the word Samaritan. So the first search is Samaritan 2022. We have a movie, so I did not watch that yet. But if we go to Wikipedia, which is the second link, we have Samaritans. This article is about the ethno-religious group. For the religion, see Samaritanism. So there's actually a word for the Samaritan religion, and it's believe it or not, there's a word for that, and it is Samaritanism. And they say here it is the Abrahamic monotheistic ethnic religion of the Samaritan people, an ethno-religious group who, alongside Jews, originate from the ancient Israelites. Its central holy text is the Samaritan Pentateuch, which Samaritans believe is the original unchanged version of the Torah. This is actually true. It is believed in the Samaritan community that we have the original Pentateuch in a sense. Of course, there's also the parable of the Good Samaritan, where most people heard about the Samaritans or heard the word Samaritan before. For other uses, see Samaritan disambiguation. So I'm not sure what does disambiguation mean, but here it says it's just like Samaritans are ethno-religious group of Eastern Mediterranean region, originating from connection with ancient Samaria. So we do believe that the concentrations of the Samaritan population were around ancient Samaria, which was actually in the north of the Holy Land. Continuing on, it says here Samaritans, guardians, means guardians, keepers of the Torah. This is what we believe it means. And it also says here in Arabic, El-Samariyun, in Hebrew, Shomronim, and it says our ethno-religious group who originated from the ancient Israelites. All right, and they say here they are native to Levant, which is basically around the Holy Land. We do believe that we're always here, despite some Samaritan population being exiled around the world. Here it says Samaritans also regard Mount Gerizim near both Nablus and biblical Shechem, which is Nablus, and not the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. That's definitely one of the most important differences between Samaritans and the Jewish people. It says here they attribute to schism, a split or division between strongly opposed sections or parties caused by differences in opinion or belief between Samaritanism and Judaism to have been caused by Eli, creating an alternate shrine at Shiloh in opposite to Mount Gerizim. This is also true because the story of where we originated is different than what many Orthodox Jewish people believe we came from. For example, we believe that there was this rivalry between Eli and Uzi, two people who basically Uzi was the high priest, we believe, who was really qualified from the Itamar high priesthood, it is believed. So this is where basically at some point the Israelites priests stopped being from son to son, but we'll talk about that later. But eventually we believe that someone, his name was Eli, he didn't like that the fact that Uzi is going to be, or he is the high priest, and he basically started his own, let's say, community revolved around not Mount Gerizim, which we believe all the commandments should be done in relation to the tabernacle. Eli took those group to Shiloh, and that was eventually even taken after that to Jerusalem. If you want to learn more about that, you can definitely search for Eli and Uzi, the Samaritan story of the origin. I think that's what will help you find that story. There's also other books that we'll share later about this. Once a large community, the Samaritan population shrunk significantly in the wake of the brutal suppression of the Samaritan revolts against the Byzantine Empire. This is true. There was 3 big revolts done. That was led by a Samaritan leader. His name was Babaraba. It says here, mass conversion to Christianity under the Byzantines and later to Islam following the Muslim conquest of the Levant further reduced their numbers. It is known that there are some Samaritans who converted either to Christianity or Islam. Not sure if it was in big numbers, but we do know that there are some families in Nablus that believe that their origins are Samaritans, and there are many that really are very sure that their ancestors really recently just converted to Samaritanism. All right, it says here, following the Muslim conquest of the Levant further reduced their numbers. In the 12th century, the Jewish traveler Benjamin of Tudela estimated that only around 1,900 Samaritans remained in the regions of Palestine and Syria as of 2021. There has been some Samaritans known to have lived in Syria. What's really interesting is that there are some mezuzot. Mezuzah would look like this, like basically a tablet which has some ancient Hebrew writings on it. So we know that there are some that were found in Syria. But it's interesting to know that we were 1,900 in the 12th century. That's a pretty long time ago, and it's still a very small number. So possibly maybe even other Samaritan communities around the Holy Land that were not probably maybe visited, or maybe this traveler was not aware of them. Like, for example, there were some, I know they were in Gaza. So there are also small populations in Brazil and Sicily. All right, so this is really interesting because we do not really know if there's any. We don't say that there are. However, I did hear that there are some that converted to become Samaritans, although we do not have any people who convert. I mean, there are some people who really come to live with the Samaritans, and there are some people who follow the Samaritan religion around the world that believe their origins are Samaritans. There are people who are Jewish, and they believe that the Samaritan Pentateuch is the original one, so they also follow us, and we accept. In a sense, we really respect everyone who wants to follow Samaritanism, but at the same time, we do not have any conversion to the religion unless the person really shows that they are serious about it and they come to follow the Samaritan community, to live with us in a sense. And until now, really, that did not happen. Only perhaps a couple families are doing it. But we will talk about that more later, I think. The Samaritans in Kiryat Luza speak Levantine Arabic, while those in Cholon primarily speak Israeli Hebrew. For the purposes of liturgy, Samaritan Hebrew and Samaritan Aramaic are used. So basically, that's true. We do speak Arabic on Mount Gerizim, and the ones who live in Tel Aviv, they also speak Hebrew as for first language, but we also speak Hebrew, and they also speak Arabic pretty well. However, we do have a Samaritan Hebrew to use in anything related to religion. Samaritan Aramaic, of course, it's also it's known as Samaritan Hebrew, Samaritan Aramaic, both written in Samaritan script. This is how it looks like, Samaritan script. We learn at an age that is pretty young, about 5 years old. You start learning how to read ancient Hebrew. Next, we have etymology and terminology. Etymology is, guys, I'm sorry, I do not know what that means. The study of the origin of words and the way in which their meanings have changed throughout history. This is super interesting. And I think I did learn about that. Not the first time I know about this word. So inscriptions from the Samaritan diaspora in Delos, dating as early as 150 to 50 BCE, and perhaps slightly earlier, provide the oldest known self-designation for Samaritans, indicating that they call themselves Israelites. It is true, we do not use the word Samaritans as often, at least not in our normal life or even the religious ceremonies. We rarely use the word Samaritans. We use the word Israelites, which basically means the sons of Israel, the Israelites that are talked about in the Torah. In their own language, the Samaritans called themselves Shamerim, true, which means keepers, guardians. In Arabic, Samariyun. The term cognate with the biblical Hebrew term shomerim, and both terms reflect the Semitic root, which means to watch, to guard, right? Here it says Josephus uses several terms for the Samaritans, and we're talking about Josephus who exactly? We'll see about this one. It says here that he used several terms for the Samaritans, which he appears to use interchangeably. Among them is reference to Kuta. So it's probably Kuta, which is a designation employed to denote peoples in media in Persian, putatively sent to Samaria to replace the exiled Israelite population. Okay, so this is actually, in a sense, I know about this because Samaritans are sometimes called Kutim, which means people who came from Kuta, which is basically, I think, a city in Iraq. So that is one thing. However, we do not believe we came from Kuta. We believe that when the Assyrian Empire exiled the northern Israelites, there was only 27,000 that were exiled, probably the higher status people, and 27,000 out of that number was a very small number because the Samaritans were believed to be probably close to at least more than 500,000. Here it says ancestrally, Samaritans affirm that they descend from the tribes of Ephraim and Menashe in ancient Samaria. Samaritan tradition associates the split between them and the Judean-led southern Israelites to the time of the biblical priest Eli, described as a false high priest who usurped the priestly office from its occupant Uzi and established a rival shrine at Shiloh. This is basically the Samaritan belief, yes, about what happened after the split, or basically right when there were some tribes that left the northern tribes. There were 10 tribes, and there was 2 tribes that left to the south, the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, and also half of Levi went to the south, and basically at some point there was also the southern kingdom, which was called the Jewish kingdom, the Judean kingdom. Of course, there's a lot of things to talk about King Solomon when he built the temple in Jerusalem. I'm sure that we'll mention that soon. All right, a Jewish Orthodox tradition based on material in the Bible, Josephus and the Talmud dates their presence much later. In the beginning of the Babylonian captivity and Rabbinic Judaism, for example, the Tofeta Berachot, the Samaritans are called Kuthitis, which is like Kuta, Kutim, exactly, referring to the ancient city of Kuta, geographically located in what is today known as Iraq. So like I mentioned, the Samaritans were called Kutim because of the location that they were believed they came from. Of course, here it says also in writing, so there was Josephus, so this is, I think, here we go, was a 1st century Romano-Jewish historian and military leader, best known for the Jewish War, who was born in Jerusalem, then part of Roman Judea, to a father of priestly descent and a mother who claimed royal ancestry. I do know John Hyrcanus. He wasn't the best friend for the Samaritans here. He was believed to have basically had a hand in the destruction of the temple on Mount Gerizim. This is true, and one of probably the saddest days for the Samaritans. However, in the Samaritan beliefs, we do believe that the temple was, in a sense, hidden from the Israelites to be rebuilt again ever until a Messiah comes, or we call him the Taib. So the Israeli biblical scholar Shemaryahu Talmon has supported the Samaritan tradition that they are mainly descended from the tribes of Ephraim and Menashe who remained in Israel after the Assyrian conquest. Add to that we also believe that we are from the Levite tribes, half of Levi. He states that this description of them as 2 kings as foreigners is tendentious and intended to ostracize the Samaritans from those Israelites who returned from the Babylonian exile in 520 BCE. He further states that 2 Chronicles could be interpreted as confirming that large fractions of the tribes of Ephraim and Menashe remained in Israel. And first of all, what is this word? Like basically tenacious or something? Here it says, expressing or intending to promote a particular cause or point of view, especially a controversial one. Okay. So, and the word ostracize is exclude from a society. Okay. The Samaritans, from those Israelites who returned from the Babylonian exile. So here it says 2 Chronicles. Let's see what 2 Chronicles really is. It says here, Cheskiah sent word to all Israel and Judah and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Menashe that they should come to the house of the Lord at Jerusalem to keep the Passover to the Lord of God, to the God of Israel. This is super interesting because as Samaritans, we do believe that we, at least half of us, originate from the tribes of Joseph, who are known to be Ephraim and Menashe. But we also believe that we also have half of Levi remained in the north. So, history. Iron Age. The narratives in Genesis about the rivalries among the 12 sons of Jacob are viewed by some as describing tensions between north and south. According to the Hebrew Bible, they were temporarily united under a united monarchy. But after the death of Solomon, the kingdom split in two: the northern kingdom of Israel, and with its last capital city Samaria, and the southern kingdom of Judea with its capital Jerusalem. The Deuteronomistic let's see what this is. So it's abbreviated as DTR or simply D, may refer either to the source document underlying the core chapters of Deuteronomy, interesting, or to the broader school that produced all of Deuteronomy, as well as the Deuteronomistic history of Joshua, Judges, Samuel, and Kingdom. The tension continued. Here it says, in the post-exilic period, the books of Kings are more inclusive than Ezra and Nehemiah, since the ideal is one of Israel with 12 tribes, whereas the book of Chronicles concentrate on the kingdom of Judah and ignore the kingdom of Israel. So this is actually probably, it's very close to what we believe, because that's one of the reasons why we probably do not have much focus on the books of prophets and writings, because they do mention and focus rather more on the what happened in the south of the land, which is in the kingdom of Judah. It did talk about, of course, what happened a lot in the kingdom of Israel, or the kingdom of the north, but not as much as the one that what happened in the south. Samaritans claim to be descended from the Israelites of ancient Samaria. We did talk about this, and it says here, okay, during the New Testament period, the tensions were exploited by Roman authorities, as they likewise had done between rival tribal fractions elsewhere, and Josephus reports numerous violent confrontations between Jews and Samaritans throughout the first half of the first century. Sadly, this is true. However, today, we have really great relations with the Jewish people, especially since today we have this other group that lives in Tel Aviv and Holon. They have really great relationships with the Israelis around them. There are some problems that occur sometimes with very Orthodox Jews, unfortunately, that consider the Samaritans really as, in a sense, kofrim, which means really disbelievers or something. However, that is not the most accepted look on the Samaritans. Here it says, Ezra 4 says that the local inhabitants of the land offered to assist with the building of the new temple during the time of Zerubbabel, but their offer was rejected. According to Ezra, this rejection precipitated a further interference, not only with the rebuilding of the temple, but also with the reconstruction of Jerusalem. The issue surrounding the Samaritans' offer to help rebuild the temple was a complicated one that took a while for the Judeans to think over. There had always been a division between the north and the south, and this instance perfectly illustrates that. Interesting. Following Solomon's death, sectionalism formed and inevitably led to the division of the kingdom. Sectionalism means, if you don't mind, guys, we're learning together. Restriction of interest to a narrow sphere, undue concern with local interests, or petty distinctions at the expense of general well-being. Wow. The rise of democracy, capitalism, and sectionalism. So it's basically loyalty to one's own religion or section of the country rather than to the country as a whole. This is really interesting. Okay. Oops. Closed an open window here. I do believe that learning about those things, kind of like learning about our history and our ancestors' history, it kind of paves a path for us, either from learning about their mistakes or like learning from their wisdom in a sense. So the Temple of Gerizim was rebuilt after the Bar Kokhba revolt against the Romans around 136 CE. A building dated to the 2nd century BCE, the Dilla Synagogue. The Dilla Synagogue is commonly identified as a Samaritan synagogue, which would make it the oldest known Jewish or Samaritan synagogue. Interesting, I never heard about this. The Synagogue of Delos, Greece. Wow, okay, I was in Greece like a few weeks ago. It's one of the oldest synagogues known today. Its proposed origin dating between 150 and 120 BCE. It's pretty old, although its identification as a synagogue has been disputed. It was discovered in 1912. Dominating future, does it say? Alright, the building's most recent use is widely agreed to have been an assembly hall for Jews or Samaritans. Citation needed. However, the first use for the building is more controversial. While some people think the building was erected as a private house or a pagan meeting place. This is the first time I hear about this synagogue. It's super interesting. Does it have any like photos or anything? Oh, wow. Alright, look for it, guys. It's called Delos Synagogue. Samaritans are known to have had some populations living over around at least the islands of Greece. I mean, I'm not sure which part, but we do know that Greece is literally an hour away from the Holy Land, so. Right, okay. Okay, I think we will leave the second part for a part 2, perhaps. This is really a first episode, diving deep in the internet, searching for information about our ancestors. We are going to dig very deep, guys. We're going to look for, information that was really hard to find, because a lot of people ask me about what if this book exists, or what if does this information exist? I really don't know. I didn't search the internet enough about Samaritans and about our history. So please consider this as like a joint study between me and you as a community, I hope. Not only about Samaritans, of course. It can be about anything. I think the internet is a wonderful tool for us to learn about our past and learn about the present and even the future, how to prepare for the future. So I think it's a beautiful platform that we can use, and I'm very glad to be able to join many people that do this. If you do have any questions about Samaritans or about just anything, if you're interested to make a special episode about anything really, there's a lot of things that we can cover. Soon I'll be also taking some videos around the neighborhood, perhaps also on the archaeological site, and also talk about many things that are related to this history and tradition and culture that we're going to talk about. We're going to see a lot of pictures. I'm so interested to know what is going to come up. All right, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. Again, do leave a like and leave a sub if you haven't already. I'm very excited to be able to do this. See you next time.